They might talk about humor, music, film, books, football and box sets, exercise and maybe even food, trivia and sport, politics and health, sometimes well-being too. On the Life with Brian. On the Life with Brian.
Coming up on Life with Brian.
To be honest with you, I'm somewhat discombobulated that Brian McClare has done 50 podcasts, because I'm not sure he had 50 interviews as a footballer.
I mean, I'm mischievous every single day, you know. It's been a part of my adult life.
Only you could have got away with that because you were Fergie's favourite. Simple as that.
Hello and welcome to the 50th episode of Life with Brian, the Brian McClare podcast. Your co-hosts Mark and Matthew here as ever with Manchester United and Celtic legend Brian McClare as we raise our microphones in the air in acknowledgement of reaching our half century. Can either of you possibly have imagined we'd have dragged Choccy along to doing 50 of these when we first started doing this over 3 years ago?
Oh, I had faith. I always thought we had faith. I thought we had potential. But I mean, this is up there for me with the moment that Brian broke George Best's scoring record back in 87, 88. No one ever thought it would happen again. And yet again, he's surprised everybody. So I think it's up there.
I'm not sure they dragged along as much of a compliment.
Well, Choccy, do you think this is an even bigger milestone than your 60th birthday last December?
Oh, clearly, yeah. I'm going to do the 50 at 50 to do with the podcast now as well as the 60 at 60. I was trying to work my way through. So,
okay, well, it's to the next 50, eh?
Well, your commitment is admirable. As always, we have a special guest. And on this joyous occasion, we have former Sky Sports touchline reporter who is now working for CBS in the US on their Galazzo show, and also now has his own podcast called Football, Music and Me, where he talks with some stellar names from the game about football, music and them. It's my pleasure to welcome Geoff Shreeves to the show. How are you, Geoff?
I'm very, very good. I'm bowled over. I'm honoured to be the guest on the anniversary programme. And to be honest with you, I'm also somewhat discombobulated that Brian McClare has done 50 podcasts, because I'm not sure he had 50 interviews as a footballer.
No chance.
The entirety of his career.
I don't think I made double figures, Geoff. So.
This is in my early days at Sky. I was a fixer before I was a reporter, and I'd say to our Scottish producer, I'd say, "Oh, yeah, let's get Brian McClare to do that." He used to just raise his eyebrows and go, "Yeah, good luck with that." So a very good day to you three, and congrats on reaching 50.
Well, it's the reason it's kind of changed now, and you touched upon things in something I was listening to the other day, Geoff. It's not really about me that was the problem. It's more about the perception from the outside or the inside with regards to the dressing room and the manager. You've had your good and bad and reasonable times with all through his tenure as manager of Manchester United. So it was more to do with that I didn't really want to give in away or embarrass myself. That was the main reason I didn't do it. You know, now of course it's compulsory. I wouldn't have any choice, you know, and I think the more things that you do, the easier they get, you know. But I'd been stitched up so many times as a young man, particularly when I was at Celtic, you know, maybe early days at Manchester United as well. So I just kind of stuck my head in the ground after that, you know, and because I could just say no and walk off. That's what I just did, you know, assuming somebody else would do it. So it was nothing personal to anyone. It was just me, you know. So
yeah, don't worry, I'm not going to go full. And you've got the temerity to invite me on your podcast when you blanked me for the whole time.
Exactly. Yeah. I've got no shame.
but to be honest with you, it never came across like that. And I'm not just saying this now. I also got the feeling that you found a lot of the questions so cliched and so obvious. You were bored. And I mean, I was just becoming reporter as the time you were leaving. I definitely interviewed you on a few occasions, and I often got that glazed look and that kind of Is that the best you can do? I always thought you were, in terms of involvement with the media, you were definitely on the side of mischievous rather than malicious.
Oh, there was never no maliciousness in this. Mischief is very much so, yeah, because and that's never changed, Geoff. I mean, I'm mischievous every single day, it's it's been a part of my adult life, so I had to I like to find a way of being entertained, and if the question wasn't entertaining me, I would try and find a way that was going to be entertaining, and I do.
Sorry, Brian, the thing is with that, us as reporters, we love that as well. We love somebody now. If you had your time now and you had to do it, but your personality, your inquiring mind would be the same, and you won't be surprised to know that I had a very similar conversation with Pat Nevin when he came on the podcast, because there are certain similarities. You would be hailed as not just a cult figure, but somebody who actually says something in an interview, and you'd be encouraged.
Well, probably, yeah, but yeah. But I suppose it's a thing that comes with the sort of situation that you're in, where not that I necessarily don't care, but I've nobody to be beholden to, Always in the back of your head, particularly with Fergie, was it could be your last interview. So, I mean, I got pulled. I mean, I used to do a diary, Geoff, a little diary in the United magazine. It's quite popular, which was mischievous. Some of it was factual, because people always want to know what's happening inside the dressing room or on the training pitch. And some of it was fiction. And when I wrote it, it would be a 4-week lag before the magazine came out. So by the time the magazine came out, and people had forgotten what I'd written, and once or twice I got hauled into the manager, more when I was coaching rather than I was playing, to give me a row about some little piece of thing that I had written. And the thing is, the players couldn't wait, to tell you. So I was coaching in the academy when I was doing the second version of it. And the players and staff couldn't wait to tell you something that they thought was funny that happened in the dressing room or the training pitch or whatever, So...
Well, there's several things there that I would pick up on straight away. You did that column for so long, and you got hauled into the manager's office once or twice. Yeah. That is because, as Steve Bruce told me this morning, you were Fergie's favourite by a million miles. So anybody else would have been hauled in on a weekly basis.
Daily.
So the fact it was all day. And you know how much Sir Alex always controlled absolutely everything at that club. The fact that you had a column, the fact that you could be mischievous, the fact that there was tittle-tattle, there was gossip, there was snippets, there was a fantastic thing we love in journalism. You were lifting the veil a little and letting the public see behind. Only you could have got away with that because you were Fergie's favourite. Simple as that. Honestly,
I still don't know how I managed. Even if they would say there was some favouritism going on, I still don't know to this day how I got away with some of the things I got away with, So
well, I think scoring 31 goals in your first season.
Well, yeah,
exactly.
I suppose that performing is one of the things that gets you some credit, So, I mean, I always love to hear stories about players, not just in football, but in other sports that were a bit maverick or different. But when it came down to game time, they put in performances and top performances, I'd like to think that I was all right whatever I was asked to do, but certainly cast my mind back to some of the things and that I did were just...
But Geoff's right, because that it's
possibly
almost like...
sackable.
That magazine was a club magazine. It was like Pravda, it was a mouthpiece for the club. And to think the trouble that the players got in later years with MUTV, to think that you had free reign to pretty much say what you wanted is beyond belief, to think what happened.
Not just free reign at the biggest club in the world, but being the club, as I said, being run by somebody with an iron fist. And look, we may get into it later, but I loved working with Fergie. We had good times, we had bad times, we had laughs, we had rucks, we had all sorts of things. But he controlled everything, and he's such a bright guy. He used propaganda the whole time. Interviews he did with us, often they were messages to the opposition, to his own players. So he was across absolutely everything. So he would have read Brian's column and he would have thought this is doing the club good. Definitely. And it was good. And the fact that it was his favourite son and first signing obviously helped as well.
I assume he did proof it, did Brian? Did he give it the thumbs up?
I don't know, because it never got changed.
No.
So then there was nothing in it that it just got printed because it's some of the daft little, you just write things and you think that, well, that there's nothing in that, there can't be anything in that at all. And he pulled me in one day. It's funny the way he kind of thing, because he goes straight into the ball looking, you and that fucking diary, and I'm like, oh, it could have been at any point. It could have been going back to the start, which was in 1992 or something like that, you know. It could have been going all the way back to there, you know. Well, it's, you got to rack your brains for this. This is the last time I'm going to be in this office, because you just don't know what he's going to say. And it's me, I was laughing at him because it's not fucking funny, you know. I'm going, Gaffer, for fuck's sake, you're saying to me, one of the players has got, right, so this is what happened. One of the players, right, at the time, came in, drove in a Ferrari, right? No, I didn't see him come driving the Ferrari, but I was told that he drove in a Ferrari and he didn't park it where the players normally park, because he was clearly a bit embarrassed that he'd got this Ferrari, right? And when he got in the dressing room, somebody must have seen him, he got hammered, right? He got slaughtered for it, right? All the players were hammered and he never brought it again, right? So he never drove it in again. So that was the whole story about it. And all I wrote was, he'd driven this Ferrari and then the rest of the players would take the piss at home. That was it.
Did you name him?
No.
Could you name him now?
No. Damn it. And it was, and I was going, but Gaffer, I didn't name him, you know. Yeah, but he was upset. I'm saying, for fuck's sake, he was upset that I've mentioned it in the magazine. He's getting slaughtered by the players. That's how I know about it. So I don't, just be fucking careful what you're writing. Right, okay. So that was it. Out you go, you know.
That was a big thing, though, wasn't it? In that whatever you said or did, and that was one of the early learnings I had in journalism. It's not that players don't have personality. It's not that players aren't intelligent. Of course they are. They're not even bothered about what the viewers think. It's what the dressing room thinks. When they go back in there, when they walk back in the dressing room, oh yeah, fucking big time Charlie, did it all on your own, did you? Am I right in saying that?
You didn't have to even say it like that. It would just be, you'd get that anyway, you know. That'd just be part of what it was. You wouldn't have needed to. You could have been saying nothing all day. Somebody could have been and just said whatever they wanted to say. And that's the bit I miss about football, Geoff. They were the best bits in the dressing room, you know. Banter in the dressing room. If I only had started writing things down right from the moment I entered into a dressing room, I might have had a decent book, but I can't remember everything. So.
It's funny because, you know, when I don't know how you found it. I mean, you went straight into something, but I've done shows as well where I've talked to players about when they retire, and a lot of them really do struggle mentally. They really do struggle, and there's a whole number of reasons for it. A lot of it is, and I've spoken openly about this. I had a surgery that went wrong nearly 10 years ago, and as a result, I suffered depression. I was off work for 6 months, so I went through a journey. But you know, they're all different types. But when I talk to players, there's the physical, not training and not being, because you know it's like now any of us on this pod, obviously. When you go to the gym, obviously I don't go enough, you can see that, but it releases endorphins and you know you feel good. Now, professional athletes, when they stop training to the level they did, because of the lack of the dopamine, the endorphins, you quite literally are almost pre-programmed to suffer from depression. Or your mood will be depressed because you're not training at the same level. And for years, players weren't looked after. And second on the list that players really struggle with, he said, I just miss the camaraderie. He said, even if players said, to be honest with you, I got bullied in the dressing room, but I really miss people taking the piss out of me every day.
I wasn't really saying that, was it?
No. He said, and that's sad, but I can absolutely understand that. And we had as well, when we got people on Sky, particularly in the early days. It's a very different world now. We were a bunch of, because we had ex-players amongst us as well, like Andy Gray, obviously chief amongst them. We were just pissing, taking a piss and messing. And a lot of players said, "This is what I miss. This is like being in a dressing room," and that's what they enjoyed.
Well, one of the things you said, you touched on there is a lot more help for players now with regards to that, and I think that's brilliant that it's that your people can say that consistently. Like it's okay to say you're not okay. There wasn't any kind of particular thing for you. Just it was just maybe it's just a throwback to situations with regards that you just had to get on with things. I think that I had started to kind of get the kind of not retiring from the game, but when you get to a certain point, and I wasn't playing as a first choice, but Alex Ferguson still made it clear that he felt that I was still part of the group, part of the training every day, and part of the match at the weekend. But what you do is you train every day and you build up to that match. In the match, you release all that drug feeling. And I think there was a little bit of pain where I found that difficult to understand why, if I had only come on for, say, 15 minutes at the game, that why I was so still wired, still so alive on a Saturday night in particular, So that took a little while to get to a comprehension of
hard to replace. I would imagine hard to replace that. I mean, I can the exacerbated. That is an exacerbated version. Obviously, look, I was slightly better than a pub footballer, but amateur club football, and I ridiculously, obviously, it wouldn't take a great deal of effort, but I was still working for Sky. We didn't have Saturday games. So I played till I was about 38. I mean, I was as fat as a barrel, but it didn't matter. I enjoyed myself so much. Mind you, I knew it was time to pack in when the coach said, "Get warmed up, you're coming off." So I thought that was the end of the road. But when people say to me, what's your favourite meal? What's your favourite meal? I always say I can never have my favourite ever again. I can't have it. And it used to be early days of marriage, and I would literally, you play football Saturday afternoon, a few pints afterwards, come home, staying in on a Saturday night, in front of the telly. It's so romantic, this. Tray, baked potato, steak, salad, bottle of red wine, but crucially, that dull ache in your legs. Now, so for a daft old pub footballer like me to feel like that, I can't imagine what it was. What was it like for you as a professional footballer when that goes?
I mean, I'd always been prepared for it, Geoff, because I had always in my head that the best case scenario in most, if you get to 35 and still you're playing as a professional football player. So, and as I say, I was prepared for that. As I said, the other part of it was you're playing, you're part of the squad, you're playing the reserves. I ended up having different experiences of what it was like to be a professional footballer at Manchester United. Sometimes I was training with the first team, when quite a lot of times I'm training with the reserves. Now, the reserves turned out to be not a bad group, because they call themselves something, the class of whatever they are, But anyway, I knew what they were like. Oh, I knew what they were like as people. I knew what they were like as football players, because I'd played quite a lot of times with them. So, and you could see what was going to happen, I think that always a difficult thing for any player is that you can see, that how good. So, for example, like Nicky Butt, probably one who'd get picked before me at that time. You could see that, that he was a good player, and that the only thing I had really going in my favour was the experience, but he was going to become a mainstay in the team, which he did do up until Scholes. He decided he was going to play midfield, So I was always aware that was going to happen. What I liked was that I had a choice every year. I could have gone somewhere else, but I always felt part of it Fergie always made me feel part of it. He never, until it was right at the very end, say that that it was finished. And if somebody said to me that wee dreamy schoolboy at 13 that had been there under Alex Ferguson as a player for 11 years, I would have been pissing myself laughing. So and been able to have all those memories of things where I managed to get through that 11 years without actually getting sacked, or fined for the humorous things I did.
That's because you were his favourite. Till the Frenchman came along, you were number one son.
For a short period of time, that you done me right in, yeah.
We're talking there about career in football and how you cope afterwards and the banter in the dressing room and all that. Geoff, do you think that you scratched that itch by being by your job ultimately? Did you think that gave you the same buzz? I mean, you weren't a player, but it seems to me that the role you had for Sky, eventually the role that we all know you for, almost gave you that same buzz of being in the dressing room, because you essentially were in the dressing room with these players, just different clubs every week. So did it give you that same feeling? Well,
I'd have to correct you to start with there, Matthew, in that I would never, ever embarrass myself by calling it a job. It was over 3 decades of going around the world watching football, journalism, television, and just with great people and having great fun. So of course, there's stressful times, and of course, it is an actual profession. But no, you're spot on. It was fantastic, and we never thought of ourselves as footballers. And I've never ever crossed that line of thinking that I know anything about football. I rarely. I don't know if there's no reason why you would study my work, but I never offer my opinion on the actual game. I would never say to a player, you should have done this, or you should have, because he's entitled to turn around and say, well, what do you know? what have you, how would you know? You've never been in that position. So you're always asking questions. But I'm not representing the game. I'm representing our viewers who 99.9999% have never played professional football. So we want to know what it's like. But the same sort of highs and lows, same as a player winning a trophy, us getting an exclusive or a great interview, or if you put together a colour piece where, it could be a celebrity, whatever, the same type of enjoyment as well. And equally, when it goes wrong, it goes really wrong. I will say that live television is like riding a motorbike. It's thrilling, the adrenaline is pumping, and the wind is rushing through your hair. But fuck me, it hurts when you come off.
So where did you hone that?
Just to clarify that it was a Scotsman that told you that?
Oh, yes. Do you know him?
Going right back to the beginnings of time, yeah.
We'll touch on that later. I just wondered, but you started out in property, didn't you? Essentially, yeah. I just wonder where you honed these skills from. Was it a slow process? Did you just learn from the people you were working with? How did that come about?
No, I don't know how much you know my background, but I was always, I loved football. I really enjoyed football. As a kid growing up, the thing, like most boys, my love was football, music, socialising, and I don't know why, for whatever reason, I'd always really liked property. I always liked houses. I come from a family who are involved in property, not in the design side. I still do to this day, I like buildings. I left school when I was 17 and I needed a job. So I went to work in the local estate agents as an office junior. And where I live, just outside London, a place called St Albans, it started to expand. It was boom time. And I worked my way up as an office junior. And anyway, I was 21. I owned half of the firm and had loads of offices. It was all going great. And I started investing in property and da-da-da-da. And it went boom. It went bust. And I lost all my dough, everything. Now, I knew quite a few of the Arsenal players then because I'd sold them property. It was the training ground. Brian may have trained at their facility and stayed at Sopwell House for a cup final. That's all local to me. Anyway, I'm potless, jobless, absolutely skint. And I went to see a mate of mine, good mate. And I walked in his office and he's on the phone. And he said, yeah, the bloke you need for the job has just walked in. Yeah, I'll sort it out. Can happen. And his name is Kev Luckhurst, my friend. And he said, I said, who's that? Great, it's a job. He said, it's my brother. So, oh, great. Brian. I knew his brother Brian, who had a lot of property. I said, is it something that needs clearing? And I'd have done manual labour work. He said, no, it's my brother Mick. I said, what, the American footballer? The one that's a kicker for the Atlanta Falcons? He went, yeah. He's co-commentating at the 1990 World Cup finals for American TV. And he wants you to be a spotter. I said, fantastic. Brilliant. What the fuck's a spotter? And that was it. And it all started from there. But to go back to your point, when later on I became a reporter and working television, people say, "Oh yeah, I bet you're a good estate. I bet you're a good reporter because you got the gift of the gab and you're an estate agent. I can imagine you being quite cocky, like this, that." I said, "No, funny enough, a lot of people make that mistake. The reason I was good at what I did in property, and I think one of my strengths as a reporter, is I'm a good listener. I listen to what people are saying and pick up on what they're saying, as opposed to having a whole list of pre-prepared questions or a mindset of where it's going to go. So it's more important to listen than it is to actually speak. I always say, in the main, I'm on receive rather than broadcast."
And of course, you went to Sky pretty much at the perfect time, didn't you? Just as the whole new ball game was about to hit us. So I suppose that couldn't really have worked out any better for you, could it?
Oh, of course, it was tremendous luck. So after the World Cup, which is, it's a completely different adventure. Honestly, I can't tell you how far apart it was from my world. It was like, okay, so Brian likes music. He's always been into his music. Imagine, Brian, if somebody had said to you at the end of your football career, "Brilliant, cheers, Brian, but now we'd like you to take this band on tour to South America, then North America, and organise all of this." Now, you know a bit about it, you enjoy it, but you are a fish out of water, and you've got to find your feet in a very unforgiving world to try and make it happen. But I was determined. I was determined to network, and my education in journalism, in television journalism, well, my whole career was empiricism, because I had fantastic people around me. There was a number of people, but there were several in particular. You liked of Andy Gray, Richard Keys, a guy called Andy Melvin, an Aberdonian, who a journalist. They all, the whole time, sat me down and wanted to tell me about journalism, how it works, how to conduct yourself around a football club, all of those things. And I was just a sponge. I was just a sponge for knowledge and for experience. Of course, massive amounts of luck as well. So, yeah, it was great.
Previously on Life with Brian.
So Floella Benjamin had been there. She came stomping over to him and says, "Congratulations, but did you have to swear?" And honestly, I turned at 6-year-old. I think I might have wet myself. Totally had a new one torn off me by Floella Benjamin.
A lot of my memories, the really good ones, have been populated and polluted with your image in shorts, Brian.
You won't want to stand next to him in the showers, will you?
Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
How was your relationship with Sir Alex Ferguson? Because I know that the two of you had some tense moments at times.
Yeah, as I'm sure, having listened to Brian many, many times, he wasn't an ogre that you couldn't have a conversation with. You had loads of fascinating conversations with him. The only times you always had to be on your guard with him as an interviewer, and the kind of rules of engagement were, you don't try and make your name off of the back of him, because he could see, he's so bright, he could see you coming a million miles away. If he thought you were trying to create headlines off of him, his stature and his name, he would cut you to ribbons. Absolutely. You would get a reducer very quickly. But if you respected him, but at the same time, equally importantly, you weren't sycophantic and just served up half-dolly questions that were so easy for him, because he would see that coming as well, then he was then he was great, and for a long time, when we used to finish these interviews, he used to say, "Well done, Geoff," and off we go. And I used to think it was, to be honest with you, I think I got a bit up my own arse. And I said to our producer at the time, Andy Melvin, I said, "Why does he say that?" I said, "Do you think that's patronising?" And he said to me, "You prat." He said, "You can't see it." He said, "What he's saying to you there is, you've asked me decent questions, but you've challenged me, but you haven't overstepped the mark." And, he said, it's almost his way of saying cheers, sort of thing. And then I took it as a real compliment as well. So, as I say, yeah, obviously we had run-ins. That's the nature of the job. But they were few and far between, with the great stuff as well, the really good stuff, the fun stuff.
So he wasn't by far the worst one. From listening to, reading your book and listening to what you said, it seems like there was a genuine mutual respect there, which I imagine.
I'd like to think so. We had a couple of fallouts that were pretty quick, were pretty spectacular, but they were also very quickly repaired as well. I loved working with him, but in the Premier League, the big beasts, your Mourinho's, your Wenger's, your Ferguson's, and your Guardiola's, your Klopp's, these are, these are the very top of the trade. So it's important you get those relationships right, but they've got to be right on both individuals' terms as well. Yeah,
because we had we had Des Kelly on a while back, and we probed him about this sort of ongoing spat he had with Jurgen Klopp, and he basically laughed it off and said, Jurgen's a fiery guy. He says this kind of thing after a game, but there's no problem. We chat, and I imagine from your point of view, it just makes what we used to call good copy.
Yeah, funny enough, the one Des had with Jurgen, I'd had the week before, exactly the same. The week before, and you've got to stand your ground, but also as well you've got to be really respectful of the guy trying to do his job as well. I remember when I first started out, before I'd even been let loose with a microphone as an interviewer, I was going to go into this interview, and Richard Keys, who's a very good journalist, I showed him my list of questions. I said, "What do you think of that?" He said, "Very good." He said, "Journalistically, excellent, on point, probing." He said, "But you've got two problems." I said, "Go on." He said, "You'll see him again in the next 6 to 8 weeks." He said, "In that time, next time he sees you, he'll be ready for you because you're nailing him to the wall with these questions. And also, he'll have told all his other mates, all the other managers, that you're trying to make a name for yourself and you're trying to get him the sack. Never forget," and the same applies to interviewing players, "we're in the repeat business. We work together. You'll see them down the line. And you can't duck questions, but be understanding that the guy is doing his best, or the player is doing his best as well. And that is the balance." And the other thing, going back to your question, we pay the big bucks to get the managers right on the whistle and the players, that emotion. So when you get them, when they're winning, they're celebrating and it's champagne, it's fantastic moments, they give you brilliant lines, brilliant. But you've also got to accept you're going to get them when they're tetchy, when they're pissed off, when they're annoyed, and you're poking them, not deliberately to get a reaction, but you're asking them questions that they don't want you to ask, and you're asking them questions that they don't want to answer. So you have to be, as Des said, you have to say, "Yeah, fine." Majority of interviews end with a handshake. In the not too dim and distant past, often at Old Trafford, be invited in for a glass of wine after the game as well. No problem at all. What often looks frosty on air isn't in real life.
But part of the genius of a manager like Ferguson was understanding the whole game and the whole world of football, like you said. There would be plenty of people who would be banned, and plenty of, particularly the printed press, who were taken to court over things that had been stories that had been printed that were it turned out most of the time not to be true, which worked out very well, handsomely for him, with regards to paying for the Christmas party for the staff, for the remuneration he got from certain newspapers, but he understood that you can, in that moment, you can make your point. But after it's all finished, you may well be in a situation where you need the person or the group of people or the organisation again. So when he's saying to you, maybe sometimes before the interview, let's ask me that question.
Yep.
It's there because he's going to tell you that anyway, but it makes it look, because if you ask him the question, he's going to give you the answer to the question he wants. So it's a lot easier if you just ask him that question because he's giving you the answer anyway. Because it makes it look as if you've asked the question, and whereas, that if it's the question had been, for example, he was, the game didn't go, whatever it is, the game, they'll be specific about a player, ask me about a player, and then allows him to say, well, he's not playing today because, whatever reason, he's decided the player's not playing today. So it's not him declaring, so the player can't be saying, well, he sticks me up there, or whatever else is, because you're the one that asked the question, and he's just given the correct answer, that he's not playing today because he came out yesterday to train wearing pink boots, and as far as I'm concerned, that's not acceptable. I asked him to take them off, and he wouldn't, so he's not playing. There you go.
How aware were you in the dressing room of how much a master he was of the media?
Well, not just aware of it, Geoff, appreciative of it. I was there in the real dark times, right? So in the 89s and 88s, 89s, 90s, before we won the FA Cup. Now, we went on one of those seasons, I think it might be that one, Matthew will correct me, but we went on, we equalled a record of the number of games played by a team of Manchester United who didn't win. Something like 13 games.
Yeah, 89-90 season. I think he won away.
Without a win, right? Now, that's an astonishing thing. Now, Alex Ferguson, you knew exactly what he thought because he would tell you that after the game, and he'd tell you and sometimes he would tell you after training, that kind of thing. So you would get criticised quite rightly, and at the time, you would only have the match of the day, you would have the radio, local radio. You'd have the Sunday papers, the Monday papers, and the Monday evening local paper. And that was it contained with that. He was getting hammered every single day, properly hammered, by every paper in the land, every media outlet, about saying that, he's got to go. He never put us out there to say it's their fault or if we're better players or this or that. He never roasted anybody publicly. So they very much appreciated. Yeah, we knew what he thought. I mean, he didn't speak to us at all for a week or 10 days, but and he knew that what he was doing with regards to that he needed. This is the only players he had, and he was confident that. Probably maybe more confident than we were that it was going to come right, and it was going to come right in a credible fashion. It just needed that bit more time. The first kind of thing when I saw him when I hadn't been party to, I went into, I can't remember the reason, but I went into the press conference when they first built that little theatre at Old Trafford, the press room theatre, and they all came in. And I just assumed that he would sit there and he would just take questions from all over the place, from the weekly papers, the Sunday papers, the evening papers, whatever else, as the radio and all that kind of thing. But he launched into a soliloquy and just said what he wanted them to hear, and at the end he just took 2 or 3 questions and that was it, finished. I thought, well, that's brilliant. He's given them enough for them all to get their copy sorted. Everybody, the dailies, the weekend, the Sunday papers, and the media as well, by just sitting there. And clearly that's what he did. He spent a lot of time working on what he was going to do, 2 parts of working on what he was going to do with regards to what the message he wanted to get out to whoever. It could have been me he's giving the message to, who's happened to be sitting next to him on that particular occasion. But it could have been anyone. And then also, she read his programme notes, how much attention he paid to that. First of all, mainly, he's addressing the fans, but he's addressing maybe the whole world in little cute little things in the programme notes that he knows what he's doing, and he knows, and he's playing a game all the time. That game he's playing, and he understands what he's trying to get out of it. So he's trying to get out of the board as much money as he can possibly get to spend on players that he thinks are better than the ones he's already got.
He was a genius.
He is wonderful at all those things, everything like that. And he learned, similar to you, he learned that as he went along through the various jobs that he had and the various experience he'd had as both as a player and also interacting with managers. One of the things I was going to say, we go right back to the beginning of the conversation about Alex Ferguson, and he told me very early on that he'd been told by Jock Wallace, if you ever wanted to find out if someone was loyal to you, you tell them something. It could be a fact, it can be fiction. However, if it comes back to you via a different source, you can't trust that person.
Mm.
Right, so he told me that back in something like 1990 or something like that. I've never told anybody anything he's ever said to me until I could prove by hearing it from another source. I remember he came in and said, I've just done the Liverpool Benitez. I've just done Benitez. I've stitched him right up. And he's told me all these things I'm saying. I'm going, you're just at it with me, You're testing me again. You still, even though I'm not a player anymore, you're testing me, and I'm just, that's quite good, and I'm laughing away and all that thing. I'm just saying nothing about that because this is the day before. The next day, it's exactly as he's told me, But I'm like, I can't tell anybody this because, you get that situation, So
it goes. There's an old adage. I don't know if you've heard it from the journalists you've met over the years, and I believe it to be true. In journalism, the most important stories and the stories that make your career are the ones you never use.
Yeah.
Because it shows you can be amongst people and you are... Now, obviously, if you witness something incredible, which is going to get out, then, of course, you use it. But you've witnessed something when people aren't working. They're not on the record. It's not on duty. So then, when you are working, they are more comfortable with you and they can trust you. And that, I think that is, if you like, the journalistic extension of that theory you have there. I agree with that.
You're listening to Life with Brian.
It's an amazing thing now, so many years later, to sit back and realise that we were part of something that perhaps will never happen again in the music industry.
It's hard to write satire about a government that is satirising itself in a funnier way than you possibly can do.
For me, it was win-win because I support England as well as France. So a win-win situation for me.
No.
Yeah.
I'm not having that.
Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Geoff, I'd like to talk a little bit about your podcast, Football, Music and Me, which is a nice combination of football and music. Tell us a bit about how it came about and how the idea was formed.
I'm part of a group of people who, about 25 years ago, they decided to do a dinner in London. There was a lot of people from the music industry. And they said, look, we want to try and combine a football and music evening to raise money for Nordhoff Robbins, which is music therapy. People with dementia, lots of autistic people, people suffering from a number of conditions. And we did it. It went quite well. So I've been involved with that for a long, long time. And we've had lots, we've had all the guests. We honour somebody every year. Literally, we've had them all. Bobby Robson, Shearer, Cantona, Fergie, and whenever I see Sir Alex, he always says, right, do I still hold the record for the most money raised? Correct. Because as usual, he wants to be the winner. And yes, he still is the winner, even though it was at least 15 years ago, I think, when Sir Alex came. And he was brilliant that night. And Pele, Beckham, you name it. I had them all. And we've raised about £8.5 million so far for music therapy. And we always have a band on the night or a singer. So we combine the two worlds. So it was just really as an extension from that. And after leaving Sky, I had some time on my hands alongside other projects. So I wanted to do it slightly differently because I wanted to talk to footballers about their taste and their interest in music and why they like certain music, what it means to them, songs that make them emotional, songs that, for whatever reason, the songs that have shaped their lives. And I ask musicians about football and what they think. And I think it's what we found is it's quite refreshing, because obviously if you're a footballer, you're always being asked about football. If you're a musician, you're always being asked about your latest album or your biggest ever hit, etc. So it's a crossover. That it's been fun. It's where it's going to go, I'm not quite sure. We've had some good guests. We've had some controversy, as you know, surrounding certain tracks being played at Old Trafford and selected by who?
Yeah, elephant in the room and all that. Choccy, you did get a mention on the first show, I think it was, wasn't it, with Gary? We still need to get this sorted, don't we?
No, I think that it's plausible that from that both versions can be correct. So it just seems to be a bit of a coincidence picking the same track.
Diplomatic.
So it's plausible to be both things.
Do you know
my story is better than his? I mean, his is a terrible story. I mean, do you know my story, Geoff, about where it?
No, I'd like to hear it properly.
Oh well, what happened was that me again. It comes from me being mischievous, right? Point one, right? So we're at breakfast. It must have been a away game. We're at breakfast. I'm sitting there, and the gaffer's eating his porridge. We'd always have porridge, right? This just fucking porridge. I don't know whether he liked it or not. He was just making a point, but he'd have porridge, right? Yeah, if you fucking can't beat this, best fucking food in the world and all that, All English lads are like, that's disgusting. What is that, So anyway, he's eating his porridge, and so things would pop into my head, right? Because that's the way my brain works. Something would pop into my head, and I'd go, Gaffer, yeah. You know that song that we came out to at Old Trafford? Aye, son, aye. He goes, who was that? He goes, right, where's that again? He goes, Tina Turner, she's, tell you what, she, in the 60s or whatever, she was fit, son, good lassie and all that, I said, simply the best, simply the best, aye. I says, do you know the Rangers come out to that? And I know at the time that he's a Rangers fan, but he's not totally in love with Rangers because of what happened.
Historic reasons.
He's seen his film, right? So he nearly chokes on his porridge, right? What? I says, the Rangers come out to that. What's it? Ken Merritt shouts out to Ken. We're not bloody well coming out to that music again. Get it changed. We're getting it changed. So we sit and have a conversation. And I said, whatever I was saying, he wanted one of the crooners, and I'm going, Gaffer, for God's sake, this is.
No, he would have said Al McColgan or somebody like that.
He was like Matt Monroe, right? And he's singing it. He's going, because he used to do this all. He may have done it before he was doing interviews, but anyway, he'd always be doing the doobie doos all the time. He'd be singing the first word of a song from Matt Sinatra or Matt Monroe, and it'd always be doobie doo and all that sort of stuff, right? Because he couldn't remember the rest of the words. And then, so he sort of went, I'm going, Gaffer, it's like going out to a funeral. You can't be having these. It's a dirge. He's going, and he's arguing back and forward. And then eventually he went, just because I would keep saying no and saying that, he went, you fucking pick it, and then left, So I picked the Stone Roses. This is the one. So
What year would that have been?
That would have been, well, I mean, would definitely be just around about Premier League. 'Cause I'm fairly sure when we came out to play the Blackburn game, they played that when we won the league, first Premier League. So I'm not absolutely sure, but then maybe, it did get changed again because there's talk about it being the Rocky theme. But it's still, for me, it's still a good story. And
it's as you know, never let the truth get in the way of a good story.
No.
B as well. I think you're both right. And Gary, when he came on the pod, he said, in fact, when I looked back and I made sure I looked at what Gary had said before coming on today, I think it was actually the very poor journalism on the part of the reporter, which unfortunately was me. because I was talking to Gary about music in the dressing room, and then it got conflated with music in the tunnel as you come out. And then what Gary said quite clearly was, look, it could well have been played before, but Brian had left. He said, I was made captain about 2004, something like that. He said, and I think you're right there. I think Rocky was played in the intervening years.
It could have happened that, yeah.
And in fact, what it's proven is that, and I think you're a James fan as well, aren't you?
Yeah.
That you and Gary have got very similar tastes in music.
No, we haven't. Well, no, it's nothing in common. I feel partly responsible for all the stuff that Gary's been involved in, because when I was leaving, I said to Gary, look, I think you're the most capable of becoming the PFA representative. You know, I think you're intelligent enough, and clearly you like to talk. You know, you're persuasive, so I think you'd be an ideal candidate for that. So I'm taking some credit for him, putting him on the road towards what he's doing now. You know, he's never been shy of saying a few words. You know, but.
Well, I say to him, your teeth must be delighted when you go to sleep at night. And he also says, don't say that. Fergie used to say that. But we're on the same page.
No, so and like the thing is, I'm not. I just with regards to social media, I think it's amusing. You know, I don't get particularly involved. But every now and I first started getting involved a while ago, and I quite liked the idea you'd make a comment about something football, and you get. So many people making a comment back, good, bad, and different. I just think I still think it's funny.
It's like an interactive version of your diary, Brian.
But it was like that, and I stopped when we had the pandemic. I stopped because I didn't think to be flippant was the right attitude to have at that particular moment, and I don't do it very often. But every now and again, something pops up, and I'll
mischievous
side. Make mention of it. So when I saw that, I'm thinking, oh, what is he on about and all that? But
you have a little poke every now and again, haven't you?
And I think it's funny. And again, I just think it's funny because it's like, I'm not saying one thing or another. I'm just telling a particular story about what happened, you know?
It is funny how things like that happen, because the day that story broke, me and Brian happened to be in York for having a few drinks. And I said to Brian, you know, there's a bar around the corner called the Stone Roses Bar, like a theme bar. So we said, we got to go in there. So we went in there, and Brian's willing me to take a video of him in this Stone Roses bar, which we then put on our Twitter feed. And I think it got about 350,000.
They were playing that. They played it in there.
Yeah, we were in there.
Kind of bizarre thing they were doing. They played it in there. We went to Blythe at night, and there was a cover band playing in a church in Blythe, and they played it. And we were travelling back on the train the next day from Newcastle back to Manchester, and the girl sitting on the train, a young girl is listening to her music on her phone, and that was on phone. Yeah.
And then when you got back to your local, it was allowed.
Yeah, we got to the pub. We walk into the pub, and there's the guy wearing the new Stone Roses training kit, or the tree training. I'm like, this is just amazing. He couldn't work out why I was laughing. He was going, "Oh, you got to tell us." I said, "Oh, it's a long story, man. I don't know if I can." I can go through the whole, because we wanted to watch the United game, and I was like, because I forgot. It's just like, so it's following me. It was following me around, you know. So
certainly a theme that week. Talking of music taste, Geoff. There's something about footballers and music, isn't there? Like you said at the start, how Pat Nevin's known for it, and Brian's obviously known for it, and it's almost seen as footballers don't really have a clue about music. And I think Brian's backed that view up a few times on this podcast, talking about people like Gary Pallister and Steve Bruce. But
I thought you were going to say me there. You said, no.
I mean, you
but that was only because of certain situations, you know. Like I didn't say that Pally didn't like music. I just said that I don't know whether he was. Well, my view it was, but. But I suppose the difference, Geoff, is like I was always kind of interested in technology and music. So when CDs came out. So I used to make mixtapes when CDs came out, I still make mixtapes because you had a tape player in your car, so you could listen to lots of different things. And then you got CDs in your car, and then I had a 12-stack CD in the boot, so I've got 12 CDs. Even if Pally had this 12-stack, he'd still have just one CD. And I don't know whether that was just to annoy me.
Or the same
car sharing, you know, with car sharing at the time, you know, so, and, he had Sting's. I don't know if the album's called "Fields of Barley," but that song playing on, and then every now and again he would stop and go, "What's that? That's that song there." And what's that? Play that again. What? Play? Oh, I like this. This is a really good tune. You know, it's a really upbeat song. This and all that. I'm going, you taking the piss? No, I really, really like this. What is it? And I go, this is Joy Division. He's got. I'm like, what? You think this is? Oh, I really like this song. That's a really upbeat song and all that. I'm going, oh well, there you go. So every now and again there would be something. And I remember one of his all-time favourite tracks probably was The Cult. She Sells Sanctuary. So
great track.
There was also a little bit more, and one of the things that's more pertinent now. I never ever saw Eric listening to any music, or talking about music, or singing, canting So I don't know where he's managed to create this new version of himself. And I spoke to somebody the other day. It was at it and said it was in Glasgow and said he was very good.
Yeah,
it was a good.
Divides opinion apparently.
It just went on a bit too long. That was the only criticism I had to say about it. But, yeah.
But of the guests you've had on the show so far, Geoff, has anyone surprised you with their music taste?
Surprised me with their music taste. Yeah, well, I knew Jamie Redknapp liked. I knew he liked hip hop, but what I was surprised at with Jamie, which I didn't know, and I know him well. I class him as a good mate of mine. He told me he used to get so nervous before playing football. Before he went out on a Saturday, fine once he was on the pitch, but he used to take a Walkman and put some music on and go and sit and try and calm himself down. So he used music like that. Sean, the whole Sean Dyche thing was mad. I don't know if you saw that. So he loves his festivals and he loves going. He goes to that's his thing. He often go on his own, goes to see bands. And he talked about Green Day. He talked about how good they are. They smash it out and how they're professional. They're this, that, and the other. And Billy Joe Armstrong, lead singer of Green Day, overnight, he mocks up a picture of himself signing for Everton. Then Everton win the Merseyside derby. And he sends us a video overnight. Now, Green Day might not be your taste in music, but they are a massive band. So for him to get in touch and pick up on that was absolutely brilliant. But no, the people we've had on, Vinnie Jones was interesting because I've known Vinnie for a long, long time. We used to play football against each other when we were about 16. Because Wimbledon were the very first team to have music in the dressing room.
Was music. that was just a fucking racket.
Exactly. Well, that was Wimbledon, wasn't it? What was your... When you heard that the first time?
I just thought it was funny because I knew what they were doing, just making a racket, right? Because that's the whole thing about the Crazy Gang.
Noising you up.
Yeah, the whole thing about it was to find a way of irritating the opponents. Yeah, that was the whole thing, where it was a manager that was irritated or the players were irritated. I just think it was quite funny, when you just walk past, you look in and it'd be like, maybe even just say as I walk past that that's shite. You must play something better than that, and you just all growling at you, What the fuck do you know about music, I get that. So, but yeah, I can see why they would. And then people, as in, and the best psychology started copying them. And it was just always a racket as far as I'm concerned. But there's no way that. I might have said the same thing about Gaffer. Why do we get a beatbox? You're fucking over my dead body, I said, but we can play some of those songs that you like,
Matt Monroe, yeah.
I said, but then again, we would be sleeping before we went out. We couldn't have that. Fuck off, you. So that was the end of that conversation, It's never to be mentioned again, You only maybe mention one thing once, that bit. You could repeat it,
But what's been fun is talking to people, both musicians like Serge from Kasabian, his love of football, how it's intertwined in so many of our lives, our love of football and music. And it's a great sort of segue. I love interviews. I love listening to interviews. I love conducting interviews. I love programs like this. I'm a devout listener of podcasts. I just find it's a conversation opener. And you don't have to like this. I mean, I'm no music expert by any stretch of the imagination. But just, when people tell you what they like and why they like it, it leads to places, or why they like a certain song. I mean, Andy Cole, who's had his problems in his life, he said, I was in a dark, dark place where I didn't want it to go on anymore. And it was very obvious what he was talking about, where he was going. And he said, but there was one piece of music that got me through. And when he said that, I'm like, oh, that is powerful stuff. And that is the power of music as well. So no, it's been fun. Stuart Pearce was good as usual. He's very forthright. And And somebody said to me, "Oh, he's in a Stranglers video." Okay, here we go. It's going to be the normal thing. It'll be some cameo appearance, but no, he is front, left, and centre. He's the only person in it. It's fantastic, and he loves his punk music as much today as he did when he was a 16-year-old kid. Absolutely loves it. So it's just good. I just think there's so many podcasts now or programs which are very, very analytical about football, about players. I just wanted to broaden the conversation a little. I mean, there's this artist Dido, who is he's allegedly a Premier League footballer, but he is a secret recording artist, and he's done interviews and stuff. Now, could you name, Brian, when you were at United, who would you have suspected of being able to have a singing career? Who could sing?
Who could sing? That's a great question. I'm not sure any. I'm not, as I say, that
best player you've ever heard sing.
I only can remember the manager attempted to sing. I don't remember anybody else. That's why I was laughing about Monsieur Cantona earlier. You know, I'm like, I never mentioned anything about music ever. You know, but I wouldn't be surprised if somebody like Paul Parker would have been some kind of DJ and that sort of thing. He would. I think Paul Parker might have been.
I think Ali McCoist fancies himself as a singer.
Coisty I've heard Coisty doing that. Rapper's Delight. Yeah, it's very good.
Can you sing?
No, that's like, I love to be able to do things like that. I can't do anything like that. I just listen. I'm only good at listening to things. I can't. My boy's a musician.
Yeah, Liam. Yeah. How's he doing?
He's obviously taking it from the other side. So yeah, he's living the dream and he's making a living out of doing what he loves. So it's fantastic. Yeah. So I think if it maybe been having music or around in the house all the time maybe inspired him. But me, no, I'm terrible. If you want to empty the place, then yeah,
you're the man.
I wouldn't do karaoke. I've never done that because it's just.
Brian, I'd say next Live with Brian Christmas party up in Blythe, we could have got you doing the Stone Roses.
I'm terrible. It's just so bad, you know.
Wow.
I love it though, but I mean, yeah. It's the only other thing. I would love to have been, like you said, if somebody said, look, you know, go and take this band, yeah, I'd have been straight at that, yeah, and just found out how to do it as I went along. Because I love the music, yeah. And I suppose the older you get, the more you find out about how they actually make it and what their inspiration is for doing things. So
that's very, very timely because, Mark, we have a quiz, as we always do, and this week it's based on music.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Oh, God. I'm hopeless.
Right.
The two subjects I'm weakest on are football and music.
If you haven't had the pleasure of our ridiculous quizzes before, welcome to more nonsense on a theme, which this time revolves around Choccy and Geoff's shared passion for football and music.
Oh,
this one is called Song or Wrong, and here's why. We're giving you 5 questions each in the penalty shootout format about pop or rock songs and their football-related connections. And all you have to do is tell us whether these tales are true by saying song or false by saying wrong. I think that should be easy enough to follow. Are you both ready?
As ready as we'll ever be.
I'd say that as a no.
Geoff, you're our guest, so you've got the honour of going first. So your first penalty, is this. Angel Eyes, Home and Away, by renowned Clydebank fans, Wet, 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 is actually about their days following their beloved Bankies, Home and Away, in the 1980s before they made it big.
Well, they are proper fans, so I don't know the answer, but I'd like to believe it, so I'm going song.
Fortunately, you've smashed that one straight over the bar, Geoff. It's a wrong. It's not about football at all. It's just another one of their blue-eyed soul hits from 1987. But you're right, they did memorably sponsor Clydebank shirts for a period in the 1990s.
See, I had reason to believe.
Yeah. You see, that just dangled enough plausibility there for it to be true. So unfortunately not.
As he always does, Mark. Yeah, gives you the eyes. And obviously, Mark, Wet, 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 the first band you ever saw live?
Yes, thanks for bringing that up again. Yeah, they were. That's right.
There's no shame in that.
No,
sold out, magnificent album.
No,
Exactly. Yes, I'll defend that album to the hilt.
I just remember us talking about it when Pat Nevin was on. I think it was show 1, wasn't it? Show 2.
Show 2, I think.
Did he unplug the Zoom, Pat, at that point?
Yeah.
Your opportunity to get off to a good start, Choccy, is this. Back home, the England team's chart-topping 1970 World Cup song was written by the same people who penned UK Eurovision classics, Puppet on a String and Congratulations.
Song.
Says it with conviction. Is that a guess or a...
It's a guess.
Well, you're right. It's song, true. Written by songwriter.
It's just as bad as those other ones.
Yeah. Bill Martin from Govan and Derry's Phil Coulter. Not exactly...
from Govan?
From two Scottish lads. Phil
so
Coulter.
A Scotsman wrote an English...
A Scotsman and a fellow from Derry.
Yeah. Yeah. So...
dear! There is a nugget. There's a jewel there.
You'll have to burn that single that you bought then.
Trust Scotland to try and gag in on a bit of glory there, but you're right.
Right,
you're
up against it.
Yeah, 1-0 up, 1-0 Brian.
There was no glory. Was there in 70?
Well,
no.
More than there was for Scotland. More than there was for Scotland.
That's right. Right, Geoff. Your second one is this. Brazilian heavy metal band and Spurs fans, Sepultura, once wrote a song called Choke, the lyrics of which are inspired by Arsenal's repeated failures to win the Premier League since 2004.
Are they Spurs fans?
That's what the question says, yeah.
So you don't know if they're Spurs fans?
It's just my research. I can't comment.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Listen, I was at the North London Derby the other day, and how much Spurs despise Arsenal and are obsessed with them failing is apparent. So for that reason, I'd like to believe it. Brazilian... I'm going song.
Oh, again, I've given you the eyes and sent you the wrong way. It's a wrong, I'm afraid. It's a false. The band aren't known to be Spurs fans at all.
How do you know that?
Well, he doesn't know it. He can't confirm or deny.
Yeah. My Portuguese isn't that good when I read up about them on the internet.
In fairness to Mark, he very rarely leaves any stone unturned when it comes to his research for these quizzes, as all our previous 49 guests will be able to.
Can I just have a clarification of the rules? The way this is going, will we stop when Brian's on 3 and I'm on 0?
No, we'll stick with it to the bitter end.
Yeah, because Mark spent hours on these questions. So
I want these things aired.
Right. So Brian, your chance here to extend your lead. Another England World Cup song for you. This time,
it's specialist subject.
Yeah.
This time, 1990s song "World in Motion" by New Order. The famous John Barnes rap was written by actor Keith Allen, but the line, "We ain't no hooligans, this ain't a football song," was actually provided by his then 5-year-old daughter, Lily.
Wrong.
Yeah, you're wrong. You're right, it's wrong. The rap was...
Stuart's here. I think VAR have got to step in.
Brian,
I'm just guessing, Geoff. I'm doing the last 49 quizzes that I've only won about 3.
I'm going the full Nottingham Forest route here. I want to know these questions clearly have a much closer association with the home team than the away guest.
Well, no, Brian just knows. It's a bit like his penalty technique. It's a bit, there's no real formula to it. He just he sticks and hopes the keeper dives the other way.
Right, come on then. I'm on a hat trick here.
Okay, go on, Mark.
Yes, we really need to put this one away, Geoff. And this is about Manchester United's 1995 FA Cup final song, not 94, for which Brian's got a gold disc. Is it, Brian, or a silver?
Yeah, no, gold disc.
Gold disc, right. Well, that was 94. This is 95. And the song was called "We're Gonna Do It Again," which features a number of first-teamers performing successive lines in the rap element of the tune. One of said players was a certain Brian McClare, who spat the rhyme, "Because we're up there, cream of the crop, you've got to get up early to keep us from the top."
I mean, it sounds so shy. It should be true. And I've gone song every time. So this is now just straightforward 50-50. Can I hear the line again?
Brian, would you like to? No, okay. Because we're up there, cream of the crop. You got to get up early to keep us from the top.
Well, that is garbage, isn't it?
Brian wasn't credited with writing it. If it was him, indeed, he's only singing the line.
No. So, also as well, without being pedantic, is the question here whether or not Brian sang it or whether or not the line existed?
It's about whether Brian actually said that.
I'm saying wrong because I think you'd have told him to do one.
You're back in the game, Geoff. That is a wrong. Although, how I wish this was true. In fact, all the rapping was done by a guy called Striker, who was never seen or heard of again after this. And
I would have refused.
Yeah, I'm not seeing or hearing that.
I would have refused. Yeah,
I must admit, I've never known anyone put so much thought into these answers as Geoff has in this.
Well, he's got one, isn't he, which is better than our last guest, wasn't it?
Yeah. Emmett Scanlon got 0 out of 5, so you can't break that record. I've forgotten where we are. Oh yeah, Choccy. Penalty number 3 for you is this.
Not another World Cup.
No. Similar vein, but not World Cup.
This one's on 1966 and trick.
The Anfield rap by Liverpool FC for the 1988 FA Cup final was co-written by their Australian midfielder Craig Johnston.
Song.
Said with conviction again, and he's right.
It's a well-known fact.
I knew the answer to that. It's easy, that one. I know.
I'm hanging my head. Hanging my head in shame here.
Brian went on a run of losing about 6 of these in a row, so I think Mark's trying his very best to level things up. Not that I'm biased in any way. Yep.
Oh my days!
Right.
Yeah, okay. Well, what's that? It's 3-1, so you're on 100% here. So, okay, you're going to need this one, Geoff. This is your penultimate penalty. And this is about Pop Will Eat Itself, self-proclaimed, unofficial 1990 World Cup theme, touched by the hand of Cicciolina. Cicciolina was actually an Italian porn star.
Wrong.
Unfortunately, it's true. So yeah, this groovy indie dance classic is about porn star Ilona Stolar. Even though in the video she briefly appears, it's a very heavily Italianite themed. Lots of people in the strips of the time. So unfortunately, yeah, you're still on 1 and Choccy's on 3. So I think you've got an unassailable lead now, Brian.
Yeah. Well, I must admit that Geoff's questions are a lot harder than mine, even to guess.
Well, I just thought Geoff might be slightly more educated than his opponent.
If you can find somebody who has the knowledge of Italian porn stars, fake Brazilian bands, and whatever the other one was, then they are a better person than me.
We'll get them on the next show. Yeah. Brian, Diamond Line.
Okay, Brian, here's your next question. You played for Manchester United, and did they play? They played the Stone Roses when they ran out of the tunnel. Song or wrong?
Yeah. Well, that's a sore subject. That's a sore loser coming out in you there, Geoff. It's like the Fergie coming out in you.
I'm bitter.
Right, let's get these 3 out the way. Brian, Diamond Lights, the 1987 top 20 hit for Spurs stars Glenn Hoddle and Chris Waddle, was written by songwriter Jim Twaddle.
Wrong.
How did you guess? Yes, wrong, false. It was actually written by a guy called Bob Pusey, whose most famous contributions to music culture was "I'm in the Mood for Dancing" by the Nolans.
Not a bad song.
Okay, Geoff, let's see if we can get a bit of respectability to the scoreline here.
We're way beyond that.
Your final one is this, and hopefully this will be a bit more easy. On the front cover of the Undertones' My Perfect Cousin, there is a depiction of an illustration, of a Sabutio figure in the colours of the band's hometown club, Derry City.
Song.
It is a song, yes. Yay. The plastic figure is painted in the red and white stripes of Derry. So there we go. We've got 4-2, is it?
3-2.
Right, let's go.
Yeah, and then 1 to go.
And the last one for you, Choccy, comes from the lyrics to Half Man, Half Biscuits. All I Want for Christmas is a Dukla Prague away kit. The halftime score in the abandoned Sabutio match was 4-0 to the lad in the gang with skill extric?
Song.
Yeah, you get the feeling you know that. I get the feeling you know that one. Yes, true. 4-0 was the half-time score, and each one of them a hotly disputed penalty, apparently. The game was abandoned due to a smashed-up floodlight. So, Choccy wins again.
5. Is that bad? I've got 5 right before.
I think you got 5 out of 5, didn't you?
Did you? Oh, my God. So, another record broken.
Hey.
Oh, we're going to have to start thinking of another quiz.
Yeah.
Yeah, Choccy takes the spoils.
Well, so poor was the opposition. You only needed 3, Brian. So I congratulate you on your victory.
Montclair's mailbag. Montclair's mailbag. Montclair's mailbag.
It's that time again, Matthew. Rummage around in the mailbag and see what we've got from our listeners, please.
Okay, on the topic of football and music, Brian Galloway asks, which player or manager, in your experience, has got the worst musical taste? I think you might have already answered this one, Brian, with Gary Pallister.
Yes. Well, I would have said that Eric Cantona had no musical taste whatsoever because he never ever mentioned music. Brian Robson's was pretty bad as well. So,
come on,
I think he only liked one song, so I don't remember.
Which was?
So I don't think I have to have a good think about that.
I once saw a thing where he's claimed that Linda's Farm were his favourite band, but I got the feeling that was just because he didn't know who to say, so he just thought of a band
from around there.
Yeah, yeah. So maybe that was the answer. So you're going Brian Robson?
Yeah, I said Robbo. Yeah.
Geoff?
I'm going to abstain because I don't think you can have bad musical taste because I think it's subjective.
Yeah, that's a fair shout. Yeah.
And if someone likes it, good luck to them. I mean, some people, they like music, they don't necessarily know a lot about music, but they know what they like. So
you're not Libran, are you, Geoff, by any chance?
I am as it goes.
Yeah. Thought so. Same here.
I would. And also, of course, not that I'm shamelessly thinking about my podcast and thinking I would hammer people if they come on because I didn't agree with their music. I would say no. I don't know of a footballer, and obviously I've met one or two over the decades. I'm not sure if I know of a footballer who doesn't like music. So that what Brian said there about Eric Cantona, that's the first footballer I've heard of who doesn't like music.
I didn't say I didn't like it, but just said there was no
just wasn't
evidence.
Interested in it.
There was no evidence at all.
Yeah, it wasn't a thing.
It didn't appear,
Okay.
Too busy painting and reading French poetry.
Okay, next one. Rogan Josh wants to know what's the best touchline or tunnel bust-up you've ever witnessed. I'm not sure, Mark, whether this is aimed at both or just Geoff. I'm sure you.
I think it was at Geoff.
I've seen some brilliant bust-ups over the years and fights in tunnels, and that goes back to what I was saying earlier about those are the ones, the stories you don't use. For instance, so if we started telling all about all the fights we saw in tunnels and stuff, then we'd just get booted out there as broadcasters, and it's important we're in there. So that was sacrosanct. One of the best was I actually got called up by the FA solicitors. It was when England played away in Turkey, and there was a magnificent tear-up. I think it involved Alpay, and I think it started with him and Beckham. I can't remember. Where Beckham slips in the penalty, and it was a proper... sometimes there's a bit of pushing and shoving. No, this was full-on haymakers, proper punches thrown. That was a proper fight.
Brian, you were involved in one famous bust-up we've documented before on this podcast. We even got Nigel Winterburn on to discuss it. Do you ever peer around the corner and see a scrap that you didn't think you'd...
No, but you said the tunnel, not one in the middle of the pitch.
Well, yeah, I was just referring. That was just a blatant plug for our chat with Nigel Winterburn. But I didn't know whether you'd ever sort of walked in on a...
Well, we did this. Well, there was an event at Plough Lane with that mob that we mentioned earlier. when when Fashanu punched Viv Anderson. So
yeah, but you
more of that is just like
you took retribution into your own hands, I believe, that night, didn't you?
No, there was no other fighting involved, but apart from the fact that there was all the big guys. Wimbledon in a really small dark tunnel, you know. So all the thing I could think about was that if it kicks off, I ended up trying to get Viv away from the dressing room, the Wimbledon dressing room, because Fashion is at the other side holding the door, the handle of the door, and Viv's shouting, as you can imagine, come out, you know, like one of whatever else it is, and all these other Eric Young and Sanchez and Vinny and all that are appearing, all growling and all that kind of thing. So I end up the wrong side of the Wimbledon crew. And the next minute, Sam, Wimbledon's chairman, appears at my shoulder, and I thought, oh well, if it just kicks off, I'll just punch him. Because he's smaller than me, you know, so well, I just thought it'd be fair game, you know. But one of it's just, oh yeah, that was a bit scary. That
yeah, I remember that. Well, because famously things like that weren't really mentioned at the time, were they? But I remember Viv being out of a game because he had a broken cheekbone or something, and nobody really knew why. And then all the years later, we find out. But our old compadre Cumbrian Dave has a question for you, Brian. Here he is.
If you had a career as a football post-match interviewer, and you had to interview Sir Alex Ferguson after a Manchester United defeat, what would be the question that you would ask him that would probably make him lose his temper?
Well, any question, I think.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
I think if I thought we'd say you'd ask him a question, maybe more of a statement, would be along the lines of, well, really, you should have dropped that goalkeeper a few games ago, shouldn't you, Sir Alex?
Yeah. Sir Alex, on reflection, do you think you picked the wrong team? Then sort of stand back.
But I suppose we have touched on this, but I suppose you did you go in with a question pre-prepared, Geoff, or was it purely dependent on what happened and you'd read the room?
I know you can't have pre-prepared questions. Like you're making your notes throughout the game, but you know something might happen as you come up the tunnel, or last-minute winner. So it's all dependent upon what's happened in the game. And also, as the guy is walking towards you, not just Sir Alex, whoever it is, you can normally assess what mood they're in and how you need to handle it. That's all part of the art of it. So, I mean, Cumbrian Dave hasn't picked. If his question was, what would you need to do to get an incendiary reaction from Sir Alex Ferguson? Well, I can see why Brian was chuckling so much straight away. Not a lot would be the answer. Do you know what though? I'm going to turn this on its head. Okay, if you weren't going headline hunting or being critical or making a statement, etc., tell me if you agree with this, Brian. We always felt that he was a better interviewee in defeat than he was victory.
Well, you certainly have had that experience when Leeds won the league and we lost at Anfield, because I think that after that game, particularly losing the game at Anfield, where he'd always been always on in which he achieved in the end up knocking Liverpool off the perch. I think after that game, I think you would have seen him at his best as an interviewee, which I can't imagine how he managed to carry all that off, you know. But yeah, I can see what you mean. Yeah,
we just got a sense that when they won, especially when they were good. Of course, he would praise them, but I don't think he ever wanted the players or anybody around getting carried away with themselves if it hadn't been won the thing, whether it was a trophy. And also in defeat, he was protective of his players, and he also wanted them to know, as you alluded to earlier, he had your back.
I suppose the most famous example of that was when he won the cup and berated his team on the pitch moments after the final whistle, having won the cup final. I mean, that's just him in a nutshell.
I suppose. I mean, it's the same thing as about learning from those particular experiences, you know. And and you look at it, the main thing that for me coming out of that video is, and Geoff mentioned it there about the competitiveness of the person wanting to win at everything, be the best at everything, be the best at raising money for charity, be the best at the quiz, being the best manager. And that particular game, it was everybody else would be looking at it. They'd won the Cup Winners' Cup, and there's an astonishing game against Real Madrid. They travelled back. They played Rangers in the Cup final Saturday. They beat Rangers 1-0. Terrible game, but they won the Cup. But no, it wasn't good enough for him because he wanted them. He thought there was an opportunity to really give Rangers a real doing on that particular day. And that's why he did it. Now, he didn't, to my knowledge and my experience, do sort of those things again or often. But he would have smoothed that over. One of the things, we compounded this, right, so they're playing the game at Hampden in Glasgow. They come into the dressing room after the game and he gives them all a hairdryer apart from Miller and McLeish, right? This is his whole thing. It wasn't for fucking Miller and McLeish, he wouldn't be fucking sitting here with winners' medals. You're all fucking hopeless, right? Don't fucking open that champagne, right? Archie Knox is listen. Archie, don't touch that champagne. And they had to drive from Hampden all the way to Dundee, which is an hour and a half, 2 hour trip on the bus, and they wouldn't let them have a drink because he was still fucking raging.
Still raging.
The game's still fucking raging about the result. They're all sitting there, the best week that Aberdeen have ever had, really, in that they've won the Cup Winners' Cup. I think it was. They won the Cup.
It can be, Brian, though, people who haven't, obviously you work much closer than me with him, but people don't realise he can be funny as well.
It's hilarious, huh? Yeah, it's funny as hell, yeah.
Good gag teller as well at times.
Oh, it's like, they tell, yeah, it was funny, yeah. It was like,
I remember he did me a kipper once. He said, do you know the name of the Zulu who was the first Zulu killed in the film Zulu? I said, the name? He said, yeah. I said, I've got no idea. He said it was Will. I said, how do you know that? He said, because the officer says shoot at will. That's nonsense.
No, he did have a sense of humour, yeah, very much so, yeah. They like to have a laugh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the
okay,
end of the mailbag.
I think we'll wrap it up here then, gents. Geoff, thanks so much for coming on to join us. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. Great fun having a chuckle. And easily the most I've heard Brian speak in 40 years.
Can you please remind everyone where they can get Football Music and Me, where to subscribe, and who's coming on, who's been on, and so on?
We have. So if you next week is Andy Cole, who is on. You can hear the likes of Jamie Redknapp, Gary Neville, Vinnie Jones, Glenn Hoddle, Stuart Pearce. Who have I missed out? Loads. Available on Spotify, Apple, or your smart speaker, wherever you get your downloads. And you can watch it on the Overlap channel as well.
Brilliant. Brian, Matthew, thanks. 50 not out. Is it time to declare, or do we bat on to the century?
Oh, we bat on, but I think we need to have a good lunch first, don't you?
I absolutely agree, yeah. To everybody out there, whether this is your first time or you've listened to each of our previous 50 episodes, a massive previous 49 episodes, of course, this is number 50. A massive thank you for tuning in. We've come a long way since 2021 and those dark days of lockdown when we first started Life with Brian. Keep subscribing, keep listening, keep following, and we hope to see you again in the near future. See you soon.
Life with Brian. Life with Brian. Talking films or music. Life with Brian. Talking TV and food. Life with Brian. Talking trivia and exercise. Life with Brian. It's different every episode. Life with Brian. Talking politics and football. Life with Brian. It's different every episode. Life with Brian. Life with